Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming towards the end of our program, but there is one more presentation, and I hope you will bear with me. I will try to be brief, but I still would like to give you some highlights of where we are today. And basically, the topic of my presentation right now will be security threats to Poland in the 21st century. I just want to give you the slides that you didn't see during the appropriate presentations, but I think it's worthwhile to show them. That's Warsaw, and that's when we talk about what happened to us. This is the round table discussions after Magdalenka, the so-called freedoms. Recently, President Duda stated that a man like me, coming from the other side of Poland, brought up on the great legend of solidarity, arrives in Gdańsk, and in the place where this temple, this cradle of solidarity is, one sees bushes and debris. That is very symbolic of what happened to our history, of our heroes of the solidarity movement. Talking about the threats to the 21st century Poland, I would like to remind you that invasion of Georgia by Russia in 2008 ended the period of the end of history. We were hoping that this is the end of history and no conflicts will ever emerge. And in 2008, we suddenly woke up to the resurgent Russia who invaded Georgia. And President Lech Kaczynski, together with 4 other presidents of Central Europe, went to Tbilisi and blocked the Russian invasion of Georgia. And he, at that moment, in this rally in Tbilisi, President Kaczynski said, "Our neighbors show their true face, the one we have known for years. These neighbors believe that nations around them should be subjugated today. We say no, this is Russia. This country believes that the old times of recent empire returned, that domination once again will become the characteristic of this region. It will not be so. These times are gone forever." That's what Lech Kaczynski said in Tbilisi. And he says, "We all experience this domination. This is a calamity for Europe. This is breaking of people's characters. This is imposing foreign system. But today, we are here together. Today, the world must react." And he also said that we were deeply convinced that the membership in NATO and the European Union would end Russian appetite. But evidently this is not the case. Nevertheless, we should be able to resist this action if the values that Europe stands for have any meaning. The most famous quote from that rally in Tbilisi is the prophetic words that President Lech Kaczynski said. Those words are not being published in the West, and those words are not well known or not properly known in the Western-speaking world today. But let's remind everybody that in August 2008, President of Poland, Lech Kaczynski, said, "We know very well that today is Georgia, tomorrow Ukraine, after tomorrow Baltic republics, and later possibly it's time for my country, Poland." He was almost right. He was a very courageous representative of the Polish nation. On the 70th anniversary of World War II at Westerplatte, President Kaczynski also made a historic statement, historic and prophetic statement. He reminded us of Munich of 1939 and said, "Munich represents a pact which requires reflection. Between honor and dishonor, politicians chose dishonor. But even this choice did not prevent a war. Not always, as in the case of Munich, the results are so immediate and tragic. But with time, tragic results come always." This is a very important lesson for contemporary, very important lesson for contemporary world. I deeply believe that all of Europe aspires to the principles of pluralism, liberty, democracy, and truth. And as we know, President Lech Kaczynski was killed in Smolensk, Russia in April 2010. 8 years later, the Polish Commission for Reinvestigation of the Smolensk crash issued a technical report that says that the Polish Air Force One was destroyed in the air as a result of several explosions. The European Parliament Committee on Legal Affairs and Human Rights issued a statement this year calling on Russia to hand over the wreckage of the Polish Air Force One to competent Polish authorities without further delay, adequately protect the wreckage in a manner agreed with the Polish experts, refrain from carrying out more activities at the site of the crash that could be seen as desecrating this location, which has a powerful emotional significance for many Poles. And this resolution of the European Parliament states that the Assembly solemnly recalls the purpose of the fateful flight, transporting the most senior representatives of the Polish state to a memorial ceremony at Katyn, the site of the massacre of thousands of Polish patriots by Stalin's secret police in 1940. We must remember that a US citizen, Wojciech Severin from Chicago, perished in that catastrophe. And right now I would like to address the issue of the information war on Poland. As we know, the Western media are very aggressively attacking the current government of Poland. And to deal with this subject, I would like to make a short, brief reference to the years preceding the invasion of Poland in 1939. That was the time when Germany conducted a very successful operation called Himmler Operation. This was a false flag operation planned by Nazi Germany, implemented in the months preceding the invasion, and the purpose of this operation was creating the appearance of Polish aggression against Germany. Those German provocations and fake news were developed to frame Poland in the West as an aggressor. This carefully built argument was subsequently used by Germany to justify the war of aggression against Poland and paralyze the Western allies of Poland. This is critical. This is an example of an article from the German newspaper, basically August 24, just a week before the invasion, very aggressive, very hostile language towards Poland. And this was in connection with Hitler's statement at the time, because Hitler didn't even pretend that this is not the case, and he simply stated to his officers on August 22nd, "I will provide a propagandistic justification for the war. Whether it's credible doesn't matter. The victor will not be asked whether he told the truth." We must remember that. This was a horrific information warfare, called also a war of nerves, when the Germans, pretending to be the Poles, were committing certain criminal acts to accuse Poland of aggression. And the most symbolic of this strategy is the Gleiwitz provocation that immediately led to the war. And this violent incident was a covered German attack on the German radio station on the eve of the invasion. And the attack was a deceitful false flag operation carried out by Germans posing as Poles. The next morning, Hitler invaded Poland, and during his declaration of war, he grouped very many provocations staged by SS on the Polish territory as alleged Polish assault on Germany. The Gleiwitz provocation is a best-known action of Operation Himmler, intended to create the appearance of Polish aggression against Germany to justify the war. Today we face a very similar situation, and the intensity of the anti-Polish information warfare we can see and feel and read every day. The so-called Polish concentration camps operation, if you will, because certainly now this problem serves the German interest directly. And this manipulation of language violates paragraph 5 of the definition of the Holocaust denial, which was adopted by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. That paragraph 5 of the definition of Holocaust states that attempts to blur the responsibility for the establishment of concentration and death camps devised and operated by Nazi Germany by putting blame on other nations and ethnic groups represents distortion of Holocaust history. And yet, even though this is a blatant distortion of history, of the Holocaust history, we can hear and read those statements coming from the prominent sources, coming from the previous Obama administration, but also coming from today's major media, from the right and from the left. When it comes to the denial and distortion of the Holocaust, to the disadvantage of the Polish people, no one cares. We must remember, and we, the Polish people, know very well, that first, the concentration and death camps built and operated by Germany in occupied Poland in the first year of World War II exterminated primarily ethnic Poles. We are the victims, and yet we are being portrayed and framed primarily by Germany today as oppressors, as the guilty one. And this is not a small matter. Unfortunately, we don't have many representatives of the American community. We don't have American media, of course, because they don't want to hear it. But we need to spell it out. And this is a quote from the recent Facebook post of one of the Polish Americans who spelled it out. I cringe every time I hear people talk about Polish collaboration or Polish death camps. Why is it so hard for people to understand how grievously Poland suffered and how heroically Poles resisted? This is causing pain and suffering to the Polish people. But as you see, no one cares, right? We need to speak up. We need to speak up and we need to cry out. We must not be quiet and we must not be ashamed of our pain and our suffering that is being caused by the mainstream media to us, to Polish Americans, and to Poland today. We know the consequences of this distortion of reality. Another example of anti-Polish campaign. This is, as you see, a copy of the cutting execution order that was handed over to the Polish leadership in 1992. A copy of a signed order to execute 25,700 carriers of Polish identity. The LKVD order signed and acknowledged by Stalin. No question asked. And what we have today? This is a copy of the Google search for the term Cutting Memorial Day. You can see the first couple items that show up in Google search on this phrase. This is the anti-communist problem. And if you have our children or any American who wants to learn about cutting, here it is. Anti-communist fraud. Okay? That's where we are, my dear Polish American friends. Okay? We can let it go, sure. And here's another example. This monument, dedicated to the Polish Americans, to the cutting victims, and so closely linked with the tragedy of 9/11, the witness of this horrific crime, will be moved, set aside, pushed aside. We don't like it. We don't want to look at it. It is inconvenient to talk about the Polish suffering, the Polish martyrdom. It is actually an anti-communist fraud, so why bother? And are we going to allow it? So just to realize that to give up, to remain silent, to pretend that we we don't know, okay, leads us to justice denied for all crimes committed on the Polish people. And this is just to summarize. Look at the victims of the Polish operation of 37, the so-called Jeżów operation. 140,000 victims. The Katyń operation, at least 22,000 victims. The so-called Little Katyń Augustów operation, only 1,300 victims, right? A consistent pattern of genocidal operations on the Polish people with full impunity to this day. And on top of it, the Smolensk assassination. Polish victims of German Action AB, which was a partner operation with Katyń operation. They made a deal, and the Germans were killing the Poles in Action AB, and the Russians were killing, exterminating the Poles in Katyń operation, right? Then Polish victims of the German concentration and slave labor camps, justice denied. Polish victims of Bohemia genocide, justice denied. Polish victims of Stalinist and communist crimes that Poland is trying or attempting to impose some accountability for those crimes. Justice denied, a violation of democracy, right? Polish victims of German and Russian genocides denied compensation on right and on one side and on the other side. Poland is prevented from implementing effective lustration process because those are all Russian spies, so Russia protects her people, right? So no lustration, let them flourish forever in Poland. So a deeply hard Polish society is denied the basic mechanism of transitional justice that are being given to all post-conflict societies all over the world. This is one of the primary human rights mechanisms that is being implemented in post-genocide society with great diligence and great pride of the human rights organizations. But in Poland, the transitional justice mechanisms not only are denied, they are being fought as enemies of democracy. They are being perceived as the authoritarian practices and denied any recognition. But I strongly believe that we will not give up, okay? Because like Churchill said, the soul of Poland is indestructible. I really believe it. And she will rise like a rock, which may for a spell be submerged by a tide, but which remains a rock. And please join me in this effort to speak up for Poland. And that will be concluding our program today. And thank you so very much for finding the time to be with us. And thank you so much for all your effort and preparations and wonderful presentation that we heard today. Once again, thank you.